Ladies and gentlemen, we are live, and this is a bizarre street side interview with Alec Baldwin regarding the shooting on the set of that movie Rust, and it is bizarre to say the least. Let's take a look at this. And I'll be talking about my thoughts on the actual shooting after this.
I will.
What do you want to know?
All right, Alec, what's the current state of what's going on with the case?
I'm not allowed to make any comments because it's an ongoing investigation. I've been ordered by the Sheriff's Department in Santa Fe. I can't answer any questions about the investigation. I can't. It's an active investigation in terms of a woman died. She was my friend. She was my friend. The day I arrived in Santa Fe to start shooting, I took her to dinner with Joel, the director. We were a very, very,
That is just super, super bizarre. So it looks like a bystander or paparazzi on the left right there, you see with the phone. Apparently that's his wife. That's his wife right there with that phone in the corner right here. And excuse me. And then I just noticed something I didn't notice before. If you look at Alec Baldwin, it looks like he's recording it too. And that's part of the reason why he wants her to not. I think I just caught this. I'm assuming, because why else would you hold your phone in such a weird place on your chest? Right? So it seems like he's saying, excuse me, because she's blocking his shot. Now, why is he recording this and she's recording this? I don't know. You guys tell me what that's about.
Well-oiled crew shooting a film together, and then this horrible event happened. Now, I've been told multiple times, don't make any comments about the ongoing investigation, and I can't. That's it.
And you met
What
with,
what are the questions that you have other than that?
You met with I'm afraid I forget her name in a moment, but you met with her family in the day.
Helena.
Yes,
Her
I
name
met
is
with her
Helena. If you're spending this much time waiting for us, you should
don't know her
name.
name.
Her name is Helena.
Helena Hutchins. I met with her husband, Matthew.
Holy smokes. Say my name.
And her son, yeah, that's right.
And how did that meeting go?
I wouldn't know how to characterize it. They're mortified.
You guys, you know what? No details.
But do me a favor. I'm gonna answer the question.
My man, he says, do me a favor. I'm answering the questions, all right? Back up. Stop blocking my shot. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that he was probably very upset.
The guy is overwhelmed with grief. This is something that there are incidental accidents on film sets from time to time, but nothing like this. This is a 1 in a trillion episode. It's a 1 in a trillion event. And so he is in shock. He has a 9-year-old son. We are in constant contact with him because we're very worried about his family and his kid. And as I said, we're eagerly awaiting for the Sheriff's Department to tell us what their investigation has yielded. What else do you have?
Would you ever work on another film set that involves firearms of that nature?
I couldn't answer that question. I really don't have any. I have no sense of that at all. I do know that an ongoing effort to limit the use of firearms on film sets is something I'm extremely interested in. Where are you? But remember something that I think is important, and that is how many bullets have been fired in films and TV shows in the last 75 years? This is America. How many bullets have gone off in movies? Firearms on film sets is something I'm extremely interested in. Where are you? But remember something that I think is important, and that is how many bullets have been fired in films and TV shows in the last 75 years? This is America. How many bullets have gone off in movies and on TV sets before? How many billions in the last 75 years? And nearly all of it without incident. So what has to happen now is we have to realize that when it does go wrong, and it's this horrible catastrophic thing, some new measures have to take place. Rubber guns, plastic guns, no real armaments on set. That's not for me to decide. It's urgent.
Do you guys think that someday in the future we're going to see some of this reverse angle footage? I don't know if he's filming or not. It certainly looks like he is. It certainly looks like he is. I mean, not only the location of the phone, holding it in his chest like that, but then the way he has a thumb up on the side there, and now he's angling it this way. Are we gonna see some kind of documentary or something? And in that documentary somewhere, we're gonna see this footage of these people on the side of the road. Two camera angles, right? You'll see cut from her angle to his angle. Of course, we're not gonna see the. Let me answer the questions. Okay. All right. Back up, honey. We're not gonna see those things. But we probably might see that. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't know why they're doing this, but it would be very, very interesting if we see this footage later on in some kind of documentary.
It's urgent that you understand I'm not an expert in this field. So whatever other people decide is the best way to go in terms of protecting people's safety on film sets, I'm all in favor of, and I will cooperate with that in any way that I can.
Do you have any further projects in the works at the moment, or is everything on hold?
No, that's irrelevant to what we're talking about. Yeah,
do you think production will start up again on?
No, I doubt it necessarily. Was there anything else?
Why Vermont, Alex?
Because
that's
we
a
just
no,
it's
that's a
private.
person. That's private. Yeah, that's private. Anything else?
Okay.
So just do me a favor, you don't mind? My kids are in the car crying.
Because you guys are following
And
them.
all,
Savage. Savage. Kids are in the car crying, and you guys are harassing us.
I want to do, as a courtesy to you, I came to talk to you. I'm not allowed to comment on the investigation. I talk to the cops every day. I talk to them every day to find out.
They know where you are.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm cooperating with them, of course. So my
so you guys think that it's possible that the media knows where he is, but the cops don't. The cops know where you are. Do they know where you are? Do the cops know where you are? They know. They know. Come on. Holy smokes.
The point is that I'm just asking. We sat down as a courtesy now to talk to you. Now, please, would you just not follow?
Hey, Baldwin. You're standing. You didn't sit down. You're standing, bro.
Follow us for the rest. Just leave us
Just
alone.
go home.
We gave
Go
you everything
home.
we could
Thank
possibly
you.
give you. Okay?
Thank you.
Go home.
Condolences. Thank you.
Now turn it off.
Guys, she told the news media to go home. She told them, she said, now go home. Go home, Johnny. Go home. Go home, Johnny. And then she ends the video by saying, well, she's walking off. It's not her video, but she's like, now turn it off. You go home and you turn off those cameras. I don't know. As far as the shooting, number one, people have been talking about why they would have actual bullets in the gun or on the set. Now, obviously, I don't work on this movie. I wasn't there, so anything I say is pure speculation. But just as a person who had in another life a brief stint in the world of visual effects, so I know very well what it takes to do these kinds of shots. I'm more post-production guy, so I wouldn't really deal with practical effects, which is what you do during the actual production. So to do a practical effect for something regarding guns, for example, and this is one of the reasons why potentially they would use actual bullets, whether that is recommended or not, is to do those kinds of effects as a practical effect, which is actually, I think the proper term, this is like a long time ago for me, so my memory might be a little bit rusty, but I believe the official term would be special effects versus visual effects, but I don't remember if that's the correct term. But the bottom line is you're talking about effects that you do in camera or on camera. So if someone is shooting up a vehicle, and there's many ways to do these types of things, but it would involve potentially dealing with someone who is an explosives expert. So you take the target that they're going to be shooting at, and you can drill holes into the object that's going to be shot at, and you place explosives at each point where there's going to be a bullet strike, and then you seal up the hole. And these explosives are there's basically wires that run from each one of these, and there are devices that you can set up that can be programmed where you can set off, which bullet goes off first. Well, it's not bullets, right? It's explosions. Which explosion goes off first, and you can have them, and then it's real. This is the benefit of really doing it is you're going to get potentially, depends on what you're doing, because sometimes fantasy is more real than reality. In terms of reality, can be less dramatic. Like shooting up a car. Cars don't normally explode, right? But for movies, it's better visually to see a car exploding after it gets shot up. It's just more exciting or whatever. But for certain things, like I believe in explosion, I think typically most explosions, they're certainly going to be more realistic because there's a lot of things that incorporate an explosion in terms of the reaction to the surface. So, pieces flying off and the area where the bullet struck in terms of the just the destruction that you see there. And then there's also smoke and particles and how that interacts with the environment and how it interacts with wind and light. There's a lot of factors. Now, if you're going to artificially create that, just like I mentioned, there's a lot of things involved in that to make it look realistic. Depending on how good you are at this kind of stuff, it can look kind of fake, and there's a lot of different results in that. So it can be very costly to get effects to look very real because, again, there's a lot of things that you have to simulate. It's not simply a matter of me taking an explosion and having it go off. Because let's say, for example, I'm going to use stock footage. You can use a footage of an explosion that's shot against like a green screen or something. And then you can basically motion track it to the object. So if there's camera shake, you can match it to the object so it follows the motion of the object. First of all, the tracking has to be done very well. You can have tracking errors where sometimes the image that you're compositing on top doesn't quite match exactly. It's off a little bit, and you can see that visually as a lot of the viewers who don't have visual effects experience are not going to necessarily understand exactly what they're seeing. But I think when an effect starts to fall apart, the viewer is going to have a sense of something not being right? They're just not really sure what, but something seems a bit off about it. A lot of times you can see that with 3D motion. You have a 3D character that's walking, and something about the motion seems a bit off. Something about the textures of the object doesn't seem a little bit off. So again, there's time involved, and time is therefore money involved in getting effects done correctly. And then there could be changes in how the piece is edited that affects the effect that you have. So a lot of money involved. So instead of doing that, what you could do as a time-saving thing is you do the effects in production. So while you're actually shooting the movie, you use an actual. So I talked about using where you're actually setting up explosives inside of a thing to make it look like it's getting shot. But you could actually do the thing 100% real. So you have an actual gun, you have actual bullets in the gun, and you're actually firing at something, and it's actually, everything you see is completely real. So in post-production, they don't need to do anything really with the actual shooting sequence because all of that stuff is already there. So there's no need to hire a visual effects guy to go and do different things and all this particle effects and lighting, whatever. It's unnecessary. So I would say, as a low-budget movie, trying to cut corners and willing to risk the potential of someone getting killed, which is, if you're dealing with live ammo, that is what the risk is. The risk is someone actually dying. And that's in spite of all the safety procedures you have. You can have all the safety procedures you want, but if you have a gun on set with live ammo, there's nothing you can do really to 100% prevent someone from getting killed. Because ultimately, the one factor that you can do nothing about is the human factor, right? So that's the rules. No one touches the gun except for the person that has that responsibility. An actor would always be handed a gun by that person. That person is trained in firearm safety, and they would always clear the weapon and all this kind of stuff. So in theory, how could someone get killed? I mean, because you have a very good process, but the problem is, again, human factor. Just because that person is trained in gun safety and they know the rules and clearing the gun and all this kind of stuff, doesn't mean that they can't make a mistake. Everybody is capable of making a mistake, including the person who's handling the weapon. And you might even think you could have two people. I don't know if that's a thing, but you could have a person who is kind of, let's say, checking the work of the person who's handling the gun. So you have the main person who clears the gun before handing it to the actor, and then you have a second person who is observing and double checking. So if the first person misses it, then the second person catches it. But even in that scenario, you can actually have, I mean, it's a lot less likely, but you can have a double failure. You can literally have the first guy screws up and forgets to check the chamber or some step, or maybe it's not that they didn't check the chamber. It's because you can have blanks versus actual live rounds. And for some reason, I don't know, there was a glare. I don't know. It's things happen, right? Things happen where somehow you looked and you checked it, and then I swear I looked and it was a blank in there. No, it wasn't a blank. How did you not know it wasn't a blank? I don't know. Screwed up. And the second guy could make the same mistake, right? It just so happens, like, I'll show you how that could happen. Let's say only the first guy makes a mistake by somehow they didn't do a check that they were supposed to, or they didn't do it properly, or they looked in it and they saw, what they thought was a blank, but it wasn't a blank. All kinds of different scenarios can happen. And then what can happen is the second guy maybe is dealing with some stuff at home and he's stressed out and distracted. And it's a guy, and his wife just showed up on the set, and he told her not to go there. And so you, in the moment, just in that moment, distracted and looking at his wife in the background, and then kind of doesn't really seriously do what they're supposed to do because they trust the main person. The main person is really good, right? And that person has a lot of faith in them. So they kind of did not take their role seriously because what are the odds that the primary person would have missed it, right? So you kind of not really do your check. Like, things happen, right? So the bottom line is, if in fact you have live ammo on a set and you're using real guns, there is really no way for you to 100% prevent the possibility that someone dies, which is exactly the reason why this is highly not recommended. But again, if you're willing to risk people's safety and you only care about the money and you're trying to cut corners, I would see that as a quick way to save money, because I think it's pretty cheap to just, have an actual gun and then you just fire it at whatever, and just hopefully you when the bullet's supposed to be in there, it's in there, and when it's not supposed to be in there, it's not in there, right? But that's the chance that you're taking. So potentially that is what may have happened here. I don't know. Again, I wasn't there. Another scenario could be that the idea was that they were using it for target practice, but that doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I mean, if you're never really shooting at anything, then why do you need to do target practice? Because you're not actually shooting at anything. So your aim is irrelevant. I heard people talking about this target practice thing, and they were doing target practice nearby. I think the only reason to do target practice, that would not be a reason why that you have actual live ammo. That's how it got mixed up. No, that wouldn't be it. If you're doing target practice, that means that part of your production involves actually shooting live ammo. That's the only reason for it, right? Because if you're doing target practice, that means you're working on your aim. If you're working on your aim, that means you intend to utilize your aim. And the way you utilize your aim with a gun is with live ammo, right? Because if you're shooting blanks or it's just CGI, your aim is irrelevant. You just need to generally aim in the general direction, because through Hollywood magic, you're always going to hit what you're supposed to hit or miss what you're supposed to miss. Whatever you're supposed to do in the shot. I mean, there's no way for a person watching a film to look at someone aiming a gun and be like, "Oh, there's no way he hit that thing. Like he was aiming at the sky and he hit something in front of." No, I mean, in general, as long as you're aiming in a general direction, there's no way for someone to tell. So aim is irrelevant, and there's no need to practice. The only reason to practice is if you plan on actually shooting something, or even worse than that, you're just being totally irresponsible, and there's no way this is what it is, but it's like a for fun thing. It's like a for fun, like in between set, in between shooting or whatever, you're just for fun, hey guys, let's go, you want to shoot some guns? Like, oh man, I don't think that's what it is. But if that's I think that's a worst case scenario. I mean, it's bad enough if they were using live ammo to save money and time, but it's even worse if the only reason for the live ammo was just for fun. Like, wow. Yeah, that's not how it works. So those are my comments on that. Other than that, I would say something I find to be very curious about what happened is the fact that not only one person died, but a second person was injured. Now, I guess I would need more details about how the shooting, like where, I need to see what was happening. Like, where was the person with the gun? Where was the person who got shot? I don't would have that information, but you've got to consider that guns are not magic. It's not like you just fire a gun and someone dies. I mean, there have been many people who tried to kill someone and failed. We've seen that with police who have shot at suspects multiple times, in fact, and the person can get away. The person can actually be able to retaliate and actually kill the cop or injure the cop. So, not only do you have to aim the gun at someone, but you have to hit them at certain locations where the shot ends up being fatal. And there's also a time factor, because there's places where and I'm no expert for sure, but there's places where you can shoot someone where death can be almost instantaneous. There's other places where it comes in time in terms of the person bleeding out, internal injuries and things like that. So there's a lot of factors in killing someone with a gun. So you could shoot someone, and it could be something where it would be a slow death, where it's a matter of bleeding out. So that means there's time to the hospital or whatever, get them to the hospital and surgery, and they're okay. Again, depending on where they got shot. So the fact that this was a kill, and not only was it a kill, it injured a second person as well. And I guess I'd also need to know how many times the gun was fired as well. But I wonder about that, because, I mean, I guess I could see how that would have happened. So, from my understanding, I believe they were trying to do a shot where you're aiming at the camera, so the viewer sees the barrel of the gun aimed at them. So I guess it would be like, let's say someone's gonna kill me, and you see them holding the gun at me like this. Yeah. So you're seeing my perspective. So you see me like, oh no, don't kill me, and then you see the guy aiming the gun at me, but the gun is aimed at the camera, right? So obviously how a camera. Well, not necessarily. It depends on the type of camera, but there are many cameras where to to record, you pretty much put your eye or your head right behind the camera, right? So let's say I was using my camera phone and filming, so I'm like this, right? And if I'm getting a shot of the gun being aimed, then the gun's gonna be aimed like this, and obviously on the other side of that is me. So you're talking about a headshot. Now, depending on what kind of equipment they're using, the monitoring of the shot may not be directly behind the lens, but I'm guessing that's what the case was here. So that would explain the fact that, and depends on how close, by the way, that's another factor, how close the camera was to the actual gun. But if this was a close-up shot where the gun is like this, so you're talking about close range, I don't know what kind of gun they were using, but I think the probability of a kill is pretty high at that point, because you're talking about a headshot from, just guessing, I don't know what kind of shot they were trying to do, but I would guess you're talking about anywhere from, I mean, minimal focal distance. I don't know. I don't even know what kind of camera, right? So, but let's just say 2 feet to 6 feet. I mean, that's pretty darn close. Again, obviously, you wouldn't want to be shooting someone anywhere near their head. I mean, all of your torso, there's a lot of options, your legs and arms. But if you're shooting someone, if you're shooting at a lens, and someone's, their head is right behind that lens, it's probably not going to be very good for them. But what I would wonder about is how does the second person get injured? And I guess I would need to understand the details of that injury exactly. Are we talking about particles from the camera that from the explosion of the gunshot that hit them? I don't know the extent of their injuries, but I find it interesting that not only one person dies, but someone else gets injured. But again, pure speculation. I wasn't there. I don't know all the details. But those are my thoughts on that shooting. Beyond that, one of the things with regarding gun safety, if you're using an actual gun that is capable of shooting live bullets, then it is extremely dangerous to ever aim that gun at something that you would not want to shoot at, right? So if we're using an actual gun, any kind of shot where the gun is actually aimed at people, very, very ill-advised. Because you have to always account for the possibility of a screw-up where somehow an actual bullet gets in there. There's also the possibility of killing someone with a blank if you shoot it from close range enough. So even with a blank, you can still injure someone severely, critically, potentially. So ideally, you would never want to aim an actual gun, regardless of what you think is in there, whether it's blanks or it's empty. You would never want to point it at a person, right? And if you did end up in a situation where you want to do a shot like that, which is, again, really a bad idea. I mean, if you're going to use actual guns, I would not recommend using them for any shots where you're aiming at people. I mean, if you're going to shoot at like a car with no one in there, you're shooting at a wall, you're shooting at a building or something, that's a little bit different. But to use an actual gun to aim at a person, especially at close range, I think is just really, really, that's not what you want to do. If you want to use a live gun, use it for everything else, but something like that, because again, you have to always account for mistakes. Harlan Jackson is in the house. They're recording, so there's no he said, she said about the interview. Media stuff, edit stuff to drive a narrative. Okay, that's actually a good point. Rocket Man Rocky Matrix says his wife recording is protecting themselves from media propaganda. Okay. All right, I'll give you that. That makes sense to me, and that's valid. I mean, hey, you guys know I talk about that stuff all the time. So yeah, I could see the media reporting that Alec Baldwin, seemed very callous or whatever it is, right? And then it spreads around, and these guys don't care. CNN reports on it. Next thing you know, it's on MSNBC, and then all these YouTubers jump on board and they start saying, "Oh, Alec Baldwin, whatever." And then nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like, CNN saying something, and they don't prove what they're saying. They just say something, and it's explosive, and they're like, "Oh, this is good content." So then you get all these YouTubers jumping on board and saying, "Alec Baldwin did blah blah blah." No one ever like scratches their head and say, "Wait a minute, did he really? Like, what? Where's the proof of this?" So with them having a recording, they have the power to be able to say, no, that's not what I said. They cut it in a certain way. The question that was asked was X, and that's why I responded in Y. But instead of showing the actual question, they cut off the question to make it sound like they were asking me something else, which makes my answer sound. So yeah, I give you that. Anyway, this is the Debate Me channel. Happy Sunday. Hope everybody's doing well. And until next time, thanks for watching. Be safe, be well. Click on the like button, subscribe. Ciao.
How many bullets have been fired in films and TV shows in the last 75 years? This is America. How many bullets have gone off in movies, firearms, on film sets is something I'm extremely interested in. Yeah, where are you? But remember, something that I think is important, and that is, how many bullets have been fired in films and TV shows in the last 75 years? This is America. How many bullets have gone off in movies and on TV?